I wonder how this is going to turn out. I don't know if it's too short. I need more hair. I mean, I cut my hair a little while ago. I left my bangs, but I pretty much cut it very short just because I was getting too many knots every week. Like my whole hair, which was like just above my waist, I couldn't deal with it. So I kept the hair though. I cut it nicely, put it all in a bunch of ponytails, little ponytails, 18 inches long. And so I have it all in a bag, and I can opt to make a wig, you know. Maybe even put it in my favorite baseball caps that I got. One with legal death in drugs we trust, and then also my fluoroquinolone hat, but that's in white. So anyway, I'll maybe make a project out of that later, but in the meantime now I get to wear all these different fun wigs, but this one I'm not sure if it really suits me. Black looks really nice on me, but I think I need to get the middle, the 12-inch length, 10-inch length, not 6-inch. This is 6. It's too short. It doesn't really do much justice for me. I mean, what do you guys think? It's a nice auburn red, you know, but I'm gonna get different colors. I'm usually well, I was really blonde when I was younger, almost a white blonde when I was very young, and then it went blonde, and then it went like gold, and then with fluoroquinolone toxicity, my hair seemed to go a bit more darker, but a light brown, I guess, if you want to call it. I believe, anyway. And yeah, but I've always wanted to go actually a reddish color, because red seems to suit me. I've got like, well, some people say blue-green eyes, blue eyes. It's blue-green, you know. So it is probably a blue-green eye, and whatever I wear, it enhances it. But, you know, I've gotten a lot fatter in my face since toxicity. Well, first with clindamycin, and 7 months later with Cipro. So with the clindamycin, I immediately gained like 25 pounds. Never had a weight issue in my life. Always within my weight range, usually at the lower range, lower to middle, so thin to medium thin. Never chubby or fat. Now I would say, well, some people say I'm still not that heavy. In pictures, I look like I'm massive, though. You know, I don't understand. 20 pounds extra in pictures, in movies, you know, videos. 10 pounds in pictures, but sometimes in pictures, I look like 50 or 100 pounds more. Anyway, it's okay. But yeah, so I'm going to have fun playing with my wigs. And this way, at night, or when I'm in bed most of the day, when I'm not feeling well, because I'm not sleeping due to pain in my shoulders and hips from the arthritis, osteopenia, osteoporosis, you know, the degenerative bone deteriorating disease that I developed from Cipro, okay? Because all this stuff started after Cipro, and the severe insomnia that I suffered for, you know, 1.5 to 2 years, basically, but it never resolved completely. Actually, in 2016, I was almost back to sleeping 8 hours a day. I would say that I was 80% better, but back in 2013, 7 months out, I was considered an extremely severe case until I started on a supplement that actually saved my life, because I was dying at that point. I had well over 30 serious damages by 7 months out. I mean, the damages started immediately within 2 hours after the first pill, but I never imagined an antibiotic can do this, you know, like you just never would imagine. Even clindamycin is another dangerous antibiotic, but it's nothing compared to Cipro and the fluoroquinolones. Okay, so just take my word for it. You know, not everybody gets an adverse reaction as I did. Most get it 7 months out, so they never link the dot back to their failing health, back to Cipro or the fluoroquinolones. And a lot of people are given Cipro, especially for UTIs, minor surgery in their IV, you know, even minor, and just in case infections. Ear and eye drops, comes in ear and eye drops. It's not called Cipro though, it's like Ciprodex, but there's different names. There's generic and brand. And if you're in the USA and if you've taken a generic, there's only 3 states that will allow you to sue on generics, and even then it's very difficult. And all the other places, I mean, the only thing you can do then is if you've had a really bad doctor and they're in denial and they're neglecting you after you've been poisoned, you can sue them. I don't know what time frame. You know, here in Canada or in Toronto anyway, it's within 2 years you can sue your doctor. If I could sue, I mean, in Canada it's really bad because we're like 10 years behind you. So even suing the doctor, the lawyers want at least a $10,000 retainer to start with, and then every 4 to 6 months or 3 to 6 months they want another, you know, 6,000-7,000 retainer, continued right through. You know, so I had several lawyers back in 2013 willing to take my case, and also against Bayer, but the problem is needed a retainer. But now we're getting some activities, and now I can't believe that it's going to go big. So anyone that's been harmed by fluoroquinolones, especially neuropathy, and neuropathy are similar, you know, like, or you know, you have a good, you know, as long as you've went to the doctor and you've had some of it documented, like in my case, right from day one, when I left my psycho doctor, who deliberately poisoned me, by the way, because she knows all the bad drugs like clindamycin, for sure the fluoroquinolones, she leaves that for the last result to try to kill you. Not all doctors are like this. I mean, 99% of the doctors that I've seen are not like this, okay? And I saw a lot after her, especially. I've never seen so many doctors in my life, about maybe 50, I'm not even sure. Different types for different damages, you know? I mean, it's insane, and none of them are like this. This doctor was psychotic, so I don't want to scare you, you know, and I don't want to say all medications are bad, but once you're floxed, you should really not be taking any further medications or, you know, vaccines because you're floxed, unless it's life-threatening, but that's your choice. For me, no, I'm done. I'm here because I took something for a suspected UTI that I didn't even have, you know, like, what the hell? Anyway, stay safe, everybody, and learn about the fluoroquinolones, Cipro, Levaquin, Avalox, Floxin, and all the generics, ciprofloxacin. There's a lot of generics. Moxifloxacin, I'm trying to remember. There's so many names. And now in Europe, they have totally different names too for generics. So you have a lot to learn, and new ones are coming on the market. Okay, and they're gonna start using pesticides, ciprofloxacin, made by Bayer and Johnson & Johnson. Okay, so gear up. Like, this is something that adducts to your DNA within 3.6 minutes, and there's already like 2 published reports in 2014 and 2017, okay, that now proves that even one Cipro pill or a drop, eye drop or ear drop or IV, it adducts to your DNA within 3.6 minutes, meaning it never leaves your body. So it's like you're on antibiotics 24/7 the rest of your life, okay? So that's why you don't want to take any medications. It's already like you're on antibiotics. So contradictions are steroids and NSAIDs. NSAIDs are like Advil, you know, any kind of like aspirins, you know, things like this. You want to look into that. You cannot take that. I took NSAIDs for 3 weeks. I was already in severe critical condition, and it pretty much debilitated me completely almost. I couldn't stand or walk for more than 5-10 minutes at a time, okay? And that's only because I was pushing myself. My sister brought me a wheelchair and I refused because I knew if I go into a wheelchair, I'm gonna give up. And I refused all meds, I refused all surgeries to this day, okay? Pretty much the only med that I did take was penicillin when I developed two really bad colds over the last 2 years. And the strangest thing, I usually get a cold every season, for a week, 2 weeks. If it goes longer, usually I'll go get a penicillin. But after I got Phlox with Cipro, I didn't have a cold up until I didn't have a cold at all, which was very strange. And now it explains it a lot, because it's like I'm on antibiotics. So whatever strain or bacteria or whatever, it's already in my body. So that explains why I wasn't sick. Like I normally am every year. Up until 2017, actually. 2017 at the end of the year, November, I believe, November, December, January, for 4 or 5 months. Do you believe it? And then again in 2018, I got sick again around the same time, and pretty bad for about 3-4 months. And then early 2019, I picked something up when I was in Ottawa, shopping with Cindy, and I ended up being sick for about 3 months. Not pretty bad, but not as long. And then just recently, again, I just got over a cold, but it was only about a month. Okay, so very strange. I've never had such bad colds like I have within the last 2.5 years, 2 years. Late 17 to 18, late 18 to 19. So 2 years out of the 6-7 years that I've been poisoned, So anyway, stay safe, everyone, and please learn your fluoroquinolones. Learn to say no, okay? Unless you're dying, I'm not a doctor, but I know that enough people have a delayed reaction. Very few get immediate like I did, okay? So stay safe, and, drop me any lines, ask me any questions. I'll try to answer as best as I can, or direct you to, wherever I can to help. Even if you haven't taken it and you've been prescribed it, please drop me a line. And again, I'll get you research papers and everything, Best bet is not to take it. They give it from infants. They give it to very young infants all the way up to the very elderly, okay? No one is protected, put it that way. And they give it out like candy. And even more now that there's all these black boxes and all these label update change right across the world. France, the EMA in the UK, France, except a lot of European countries aren't in the EMA, so they're like Switzerland, Sweden, or whatever. Anyway, and the doctors just give it out like candy there too, so it's really bad. Different names again, like Avelox is popular in Europe too, but there's still other names. And in Canada, you know what? We're 10 years behind the USA, and Europe is like 20 years behind us. So this is, but the thing is about the alerts, okay? So it's being given out, and in Canada now, since we have the second label update change, and the second one was just a couple of months ago in June 2019. And the first one was January 23rd, 2017. And the first one that we had in Canada in 2017 is the USA's first black box in 2007. So we're 10 years behind, okay? And the EMA, they just did a stricter update than actually even the FDA in the USA. In 2018, in the summer, there was a big hearing on quinolones and fluoroquinolones, and they pulled all the quinolones off the market completely, and they restricted the fluoroquinolones, for more serious, life-threatening kind of conditions, okay? But apparently even that, they haven't put out an alert, so a lot of doctors are still giving it. I'm getting a lot of feedback when I'm saying that, it's worse in North America. Yes, it might be worse in North America. And actually in North America and Canada, they're giving it even more since we've had these label updates, okay? So it's like we're racing against time. The more we push and the more attention we get, the more it's being prescribed, and new ones are hitting the market. Our Canadian government, we spoke with this health critic. We had a meeting with her a second time last year and this year at our rally, and they're starting to move fast on it now. They're looking into the France healthcare system because it's very similar, and France has even more restrictions than the UK. Okay, so we're trying our best, but it's still considered baby steps, but at least we're moving ahead. Mark and myself, we are doing everything we can to bring worldwide alerts. And in Canada, if we can get things really changed in Canada, then Canada can be also an example to the rest of the world. Okay, so anyway, hang in there. Please give us support, and we need support. We need everybody, whether you're a victim or not, because you know what? Someone in your family or one of your friends have already been floxed. You just don't know it. Watch for the signs and find out if someone's health is failing, whether it's fibromyalgia or multiple problems. Check your history to see if you've taken a fluoroquinolone within the last little while or within even a couple of years. Go back in your medical history and go to your pharmacist and get a list of your medical prescriptions, even going back as far as you can, 7 years, and your medical history. Go back as far as you can. And then check to see whatever conditions that you have, to see if it started after the fluoroquinolone, the Cipro, the Levaquin, or the Avalox, or any of the generics that you've taken. Okay, there was other names that have been pulled off the market, so go back and also research for the names. You can visit Toronto Flox bracket fluoroquinolone public group. Okay, it's an open group. You can do in the search bar there, you can search for fluoroquinolone names, Cipro, whatever, and find all the names, or even Google. But everything's in that group, and there's also files that have been uploaded that you can download, and I'll try to update the files there with some of the names, okay, so you don't have to do that strenuous search. Anyway, sorry, we're into 17 minutes now. Stay safe, everyone, and Floxy Strong. We all need to come together and protect our families and our loved ones. At least let your doctors know about the label update change in Canada, the black box, FDA black box in the USA, the EMA in the UK, and the France, what's happening in France too, in Germany as well. Okay, so it's all over. Even in South Africa, I believe, there's a big, huge documentary that came out just last summer. And Mark and myself, we started our rallies in 2014 in October 2014, and we've done it every year. We missed 1 year in 2015. We had a greet and meet though in 2015 in Toronto, but every year we've maintained this, and we've reached out to politicians, to doctors, to our government, and we at our rallies too, because it was in front of the Parliament Assembly building, there was reporters from all over the world, so that it reached China in 2017. There was a big write-up. Mark Gerard gave a really great interview, and it went to China. So China's been updated in 2017 in our third international and our third Toronto worldwide rally. So yeah, it's getting out there. Anyway, guys, this is serious. The researches where it shows that it adducts to your DNA is all in that group. You can also visit my well, you're already here watching this. My YouTube channel is called Terry, T-E-R-I, Cipro Victim, C-I-P-R-O, Victim, one word. And I have different categories. So you can go check out all the different categories I have in my YouTube channel, from TV news, lots of TV news in the USA. That started in mostly September 2014 and then went crazy, in January 2015. It just blew up, exploded. And to this day, still there's the reporters, the investigative reporters who reported back in 2014, 2015 are following up with us all the time. And yeah, anyway, stay safe, and praying that, whoever is affected, that they don't have an adverse reaction. Very few don't have adverse reactions, but even so, every single cell in your body has been affected. Okay, I have the research. I'm not just saying it based on whatever, the research, and you'll find it in my group. So I ended up putting pics from when I was newborn all the way up to today. I think I'm missing one in 2017 anyway. There was a lot to go through. Just to show, I have more pictures, but just in my iPhone, this is what I had access through. I have more pictures in my computer, but I'm not on my computer. In any case, it's enough just to give you a history, and I didn't put the really, really bad pictures, but there's enough on the internet of really bad ones since I got floxed, you know. I look healthy after Cipro, but you could see the gradual changes, and some months I'm just doing horribly, so you can see some drastic changes. Age-wise, like I have, when I did the 23andMe, it showed in 23andMe that I had excellent memory, like above average memory, which, you know, explains a lot why I didn't have to study so much, and I, you know, when I put my mind to it, I just did well. And also physically, both my parents had fast muscle twitches, and most people in the Olympics, majority in the Olympics, about 80% of them or 90% of them are born with at least one fast muscle twitch. I don't know if I'm saying it exactly right. In my case, there's two, and apparently they haven't done any studies on two, which explains a lot in my life. I was on a ski team too. I was in gymnastics, semi-pro for 5 years, or pro, like a competitive team. I had to try out and I got it, and I was youngest on the team up to age 16. I was like 7, and it went up to age 16, and I was second in place with the 16-year-old on the team for balance, for everything, you know. Never broke a bone in my life. I did a lot of horseback riding from the age of 7 onward too, and I used to do bareback running, jumping, Western English riding, jumping, you know, but Western rodeo style too, with the games where you have the flagpole and you gallop really fast, canter, whatever, and you throw the pole in a barrel, and then you go pick up another one and you throw another, so it's sort of like in a oval shape, and you're going fast. I used to do things like that. I got on the ski team. When I first skied in my life, which was at the age of 11 or 12, I never fell, and I went right around the lake almost. I even went over the wakes, and the instructor in the boat, my sister was there too, was, you know, making the symbol, you know, here, you know, cut the motor, right? Like, let go. He wanted me to let go, and I wouldn't. So he ended up taking me right up close to the beach, and I let go, and I skied right up onto the beach, never fell. And the next time I skied, they invited me to join the ski team, competitive ski team, and you know, I didn't even practice. I just did things once. I did the round board. I was able to ski with the round board. I was able to ski even barefoot on my heels, believe it or not. And I was immediately put on the ski team, and the first show that we put, which I didn't even practice, I had to drop my skis and climb up and hold the flag at the top, and there was 4, 3, 2 people and 1, so that was 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I was the 10th person on the top, and I climbed up as we're skiing. So I dropped my skis and climbed up the pyramid, and stood, and I had the flag. So, you know, it explains a lot with my balance. I had eye, finger dexterity, eye, finger, and hand dexterity. Einstein. I mean, I was like 18 out of 10, okay? I had a test, and that explains why I've never had an accident in my life, and I've gotten out of situations where people were going to hit me or you know, whatever. And I also got through about 20 meters of black ice on the highway where there was, I saw these cars in the distance, and I started slowing down, and they were just skating on the ice, hitting each other like bumper cars, and somehow I managed to go through it. When I saw somebody coming towards me, because it didn't matter what speed you were going to, I slowed right down. I didn't know it was black ice. You can't see black ice. And cars were coming into me, and I turned the steering wheel the other way and this way and that way, and I had like a car full of people, and I was the only car. There must have been about 30 or 40 cars sliding and smashing into each other, and continuous, because it was all black ice, like within, oh my God, 20 by 20, maybe 30, no, more than that, oh my God. It was like 30 meters, maybe. I skated through it. Anyway, I'm just saying, I was perfectly healthy. At 47 years old, I went on the treadmill, okay? Actually, my 47th or 48th birthday, I went on the treadmill before my birthday at around 10:30, 11 o'clock, and I ran, not walked. I ran, just ran slow, ran really fast for 4 or 5 minutes, slowed down, but ran still, slower for a few minutes, and sped up. And I did that for over 2.5 hours straight. And finally, I had to stop because I said, that's enough running. I can't run all night. And this is what I did on my birthday, my 47th birthday. And then at 49, my doctor poisons me with clindamycin. Okay, I gave a little story already about that, just I think in the video before this, in this one anyway. My life changed. Like I could do the splits both ways. I used to be able to stand in front of someone and do a somersault right in front of them and land on my feet. Okay. That's just without a trampoline, without a horse box, because I used to have the routine too for trampoline, for the horse box, for the balance beam. Every routine in gymnastics I did to perfection. That's just how I was naturally, and mind-wise, I mean, I didn't understand this. I didn't always do well in my lower grades because I had some other problems, some other issues. I might write a book one day talking about it, maybe, maybe not. But my younger years, I saw something that traumatized me. And in my younger years, I couldn't focus, as well. And I tried to always sort of escape, daydream about something to make me feel better. But as I got a bit older, but I did verbalize, like I talked to my close friends and my sister and stuff, and I didn't keep it bottled up, and I was always a pretty optimistic person, and I always looked at when something bad has happened, in the chaos there is some order. You can always find order in chaos. So that was my life. But as I got older, I just naturally started I studied architectural design, interior design, and, because I was an artist, I've always drawn. My dad was an artist and a tailor, and he was a musician. He can play music by ear. Myself as well, I could play music by ear. Growing up, I was the lead singer in our religion with my sister, but I was the lead singer from the age of like 2 years old up until like 12, 13. And we used to travel to New York City to the convention center. We'd be invited to sing like in the US and in Canada through our religion. And in the convention center, I remember that, the light shining on us. It was so hot, and it was a big stage, and they had the balconies too. Probably, I don't even know how much they held, over 1,000 people. So I always had butterflies but in my stomach, and I could never start with the first note, the first words, singing. So my sister would, and then eventually she'd, as soon as she'd nudge me to start singing, and then I'd start singing, and then I would take over. So I was always a little bit nervous and a little shy, especially at first. So I've been through a lot in my life, and I was perfectly healthy. Both my parents never had any diseases. They never had, like my dad had an injury back in Hungary, playing soccer. He dislocated his leg, his hip, and a doctor, I guess, on site put it back and chipped a bone. So then arthritis set in. And then here in Canada, when he came to Canada, because, you know, my siblings and myself are born in Canada, he had another accident at work, and this is like in his early 50s, and so that made him even worse. But with the chip in the bone and stuff, arthritis had set in, and they wanted to do a hip replacement. He refused. Anyway, he ended up going on disability, but you know, he was walking with a limp, but he was still healthy, had no heart problems, was not on any medication. He died at 87, and I say he died prematurely because my mom died 5 years earlier, and she was 15 years younger. And what she died was from, she was exposed to West Nile virus. It's a long story with her too. And now in 2002, in October, now that I see when she was in the hospital for 3 weeks and they had her hooked up to IV, and she had all these weird things happening. She couldn't eat, she was numb, she didn't recognize my brother. I'm suspecting that she was hooked up to Cipro for the 3 weeks. And then the doctors were trying to say, you know, like I asked them to send her sample to West Nile, out west to Calgary, to the West Nile laboratories, because my friend did, who was my brother's friend, my girlfriend's brother, he also contracted West Nile that same year, a few months before, which I didn't know until after my mom died, like months later. And his sample was sent to Calgary, and it came back positive. And he was basically dying too, and his wife took him out of the hospital and just said, you know, let him, you know, wanted him, and he wanted to just go home and die if he's going to die. She somehow, once he was off all the medications and stuff, and she took time off work and started taking care of him, feeding him properly. He couldn't even eat. He was in a wheelchair and stuff. And he recovered. Not 100%, because you never become 100%, but he recovered enough that he's, you know, able to live somewhat normal, you know, relatively normal life. But then my mother, yeah, unfortunately, you know, they were trying to say, like I went on the test where they took samples of her lungs. She didn't have lung cancer, but they took samples, and they got my whole family together after the testing, you know, a few days later or whatever. And they tried to tell us that she had lung cancer, even though the test results, the 3 samples, 2 came back negative, no cancer, and 1 came back inconclusive, and they're trying to tell us that she had lung cancer. And then they're saying that she had 6 months to a year to live, that one of us, and I was working for the government at the time, has to, you know, be with her on all the tests, and I was going to take off like 6 months from work. Anyway, from that time that he gave that diagnosis, she died like a week later, all of a sudden, cardiac arrest. She died. And on her death certificate, they said she died from a pneumonia due to lung cancer. Do you believe it? Anyway, because my mom was extremely religious, we just left it because, you know, we were told, so, you know, friends were saying, get autopsy done. And my siblings and myself, we decided against it, just to let her rest in peace, you know. So we never did it. But now, after being poisoned by Cipro in April 2013, and then going through the immediate adverse reactions, I soon realized that indeed my mother was poisoned, and you know, by Cipro or some kind of fluoroquinolone, because they were using it in IV in the hospitals then in Toronto. And that's 9 out of 10. And I'm sure that's what happened with our close family friend that I grew up with, my girlfriend and her brother, who was a couple of years older than me. He almost died from this, and he never fully recovered. But, you know, he again, you can see that he was moving slower and he aged a bit and stuff like that. But you know, he's still alive now. I haven't seen him for quite a while, but I asked my girl, because I see my girlfriend once in a while, and I ask her, and she says he's doing good, but I don't really get into detail. Anyway, so that's it. You guys really have to look in your history. If you have even one serious damage, or even minor, even a carpal tunnel. Even carpal tunnel can be from fluoroquinolones. Not everybody gets an adverse reaction. I was considered a really bad case. Like, even though in the pictures I look good, I was dying by 7 months. I actually, in December, I think it was, around October, Thanksgiving, Canadian Thanksgiving, I ended up in the ER, and then again in the, I ended up having a 3-day crying episode, 3 days, screaming and crying, psychosis, and the pain was unbearable, but when you have chronic pain 24/7 and it doesn't leave, somehow mentally you get through it. And I wasn't even sleeping, severe insomnia too, for a year and a half to 2 years, right? Anyway, and then I had another episode, and then my family, my daughter-in-law, my sister-in-law, and my sister, they all took me to the emergency. I had another 3-day crying episode, like screaming, crying, just like the one with, I don't know if I have recordings of it. I don't think so. But I have some recordings in 2013 and 14, how bad I was. So you want to find those. It's in my YouTube channel, Terry Cipro Victim, under videos, I guess. But anyway, and under, I made one folder under Terry Cipro Victim YouTube channel, Mimi, Terry Coco Mimi, or Terry Cipro Victim Mimi. You'll find all the videos, and I have more. I have to find them because I couldn't even look at them until just the last 2 years, 2017, end of 2017 onward, I started posting some of those videos, or maybe 2016. I couldn't look at them. It was so horrific. And I can never go through this again. I mean, I'm not 100%. I would say I was 80% in, that started around August 2015, right to October 2016. So for almost a year, I was doing really well, like slowly getting up to 80%. Then I was like 80% for a good 6-7 months, but I was up to like 70, 80, and I was going to continue. But then I moved in October, almost November, and I started painting. So I stopped the Colvita already like 2 years before, the collagen. In 2015, February, I stopped the Colvita, taking Colvita altogether, and I was doing really well still. So when I moved and I started painting and stuff, oh my God, that's when, well, my shoulders anyway, because it's repetition. Anything that's repetition and muscle fatigue. I had muscle fatigue, so I would have to stop a lot, but I'd be painting because I painted my whole apartment on my own. And then in 2017, I had a slip and fall in January, and that sort of put me back on the cycle of relapse. And I had, 2 businesses. One I brought home, but I wasn't doing as much. I was planning to go online with it. And then the waste management business. And I couldn't work at all. And I have no other source of income. I had savings where I did renovations in my apartment. And I basically had to live until I ran out of money. And then from there, I just got the odd contract once a month, which was enough. Because my contracts, when I get one job, it could take, 3-4 hours, 5 hours. I make big money. So even once a month or twice a month jobs, contracts, kept me going at least. But I would pay somebody to actually do the job, but I would have to be sort of on site. And at this point, I was sort of I ruptured my ankle, my left one this time, and severe bone bruise. Long story. And then so because I was financially stressed, I was really budgeting. I couldn't buy the proper foods that I would normally eat. I try to eat as clean as I can. I started eating canned foods and everything, and that sort of put me back into a relapse. So from January to August, it took that much for my system to really take the abuse. And then from August, my hair started falling out again. September, October, my heart palpitations started up again. Not as bad. Nothing was as bad as the beginning. That's all I can tell you. And then by December, my spine started really acting up again. And when I went to do the test, the three-point bone density test, it showed that I declined again. I was improving. So I was down from, I was down to osteoporosis, osteopenia, and I had the arthritis pretty bad. And I improved in 215, 216 from those dates that I told you. And I was at the lowest normal range now. So I put the osteopenia in remission. Now, after this accident, again, we're going into December, it showed that I had a decline, and I lost another ½ inch in my height. So I lost 3 inches within the first 4 months after Cipro exposure, 9 pills. And then I lost another ½ an inch because of the accident and eating canned foods and, not clean foods. That's all I can say, because I couldn't afford to buy organic or cleaner foods that had less chemicals, et cetera, et cetera. So then by 218, it declined. The bone bruise, usually, it was from a fall, and my whole leg below my knee, just from falling on one point on my leg on black ice. All my weight went on it, and the entire bone was bruised. So on my skin, on the inner part, right down, and my ankle, all around my ankle, and it was dark purple, black. I have actually pictures of that too. I should have put it up at another time. Yeah. So my bone bruise, it normally takes people a year to heal. I'm already in my 3rd year, passing my 3rd year now. In January, or December, actually, this month is my 3rd year, and I still have bone bruise. And it's not the accident's fault. All the damages, it's because of my exposure to Cipro and the relapses, like now that I'm relapsing. And I still haven't been able to fully get my business up, and I've been living off my pension. I haven't had any kind of government assistance. So anything that, my expenses, my living expenses, anything came out of my savings and my pension and stuff, and I'm almost down to nothing. But I have faith that, I might be running out of money by summer 2020. But you know what? I have faith, and miracles happen. Like, it's a miracle that I'm even here, because 7 months out, I was dying, and I was dying fast, and I was crying and screaming to God, praying to God to please, I know I'm dying, and I'm dying fast, but I'm not dying fast enough. Take me now. Oh my God. And he didn't listen to me, but he then put Cipro, Colvita in front of me, crossed my path. And the first box saved my life. Even though I didn't have a second box till 4 months later, the first box saved my life. Anyway, that's all I'm going to say. So please protect yourself. At least protect yourself, your family, and your loved ones. And if you're comfortable enough, tell your doctors there's worldwide alerts. There's black boxes. There's label updates. There's black boxes in the USA with the FDA. There's label update changes in Canada too now. One just happened in June 2019. The first one, January 23rd, 2017. And the first one that we had in Canada in 2017 is the USA's first black box in 2007, okay? So we're 10 years behind the USA. Europe is about 10, 20 years behind us, okay? But some parts of Europe, like in the that's with the EMA in the UK, and some of the European countries like France and Germany and stuff, and some other countries, they already have, they totally pulled the quinolones off the market, and they put even stricter restrictions in the USA. And Canada, we're the least, but sadly Eastern Europe and Switzerland, Sweden or whatever, just like in Canada, they're giving even more and more fluoroquinolone prescriptions, even more for some reason. So even this, like, despite all the worldwide alerts, it seems like Bayer and Johnson is really fighting against us, and they're really getting out the fluoroquinolones, and hospitals and doctors and everything are pushing it, and walking clinics are pushing it even more. I mean, the last 15 years in Canada, they've been giving it out like candy, because it did come to Canada in the late 80s. And then I guess when it really entered Canada, when people started getting exposed, is when the LASIK eye surgery came from the USA, because the aftercare protocol for LASIK surgery is Cipro eye drops. Okay. And that's why people are having those adverse reactions after they get LASIK surgery. Not everyone, because not everyone will have an adverse reaction to the fluoroquinolones, but majority will. And sadly, not majority don't have an adverse reaction immediately like I did. Most get it 7 months later, and they never link the dots, and again, to their failing health. And again, it could be fibromyalgia they're diagnosed with, carpal tunnel, ALS, or anything even minor. Okay, a mysterious illness. It's 90% chance it's linked to fluoroquinolones. Okay, and so we're going back already. In the USA, again, it came out in the mid 80s. They created in 1980 the first fluoroquinolone was Cipro. Okay, so by the late 80s, early 90s, they were giving it out like candy in the USA. Okay, and the LASIK surgery too. Long story, you got to watch all the videos, not just with me, but even from our rallies, because we started our rallies, Mark Gerard and myself, we started rallies in October 2014, and that was our first annual Toronto Canadian worldwide rally, and then we've kept it up. So we've just finished our 5th one last month, November 2019, and each year we are, still considered baby steps, but at least we're moving forward, and our government is listening to us. We've had now, it's our second appointment meeting with the health critic, and last year, actually in 2017, they noticed us. The health critic sent out her assistant, and then he came and talked to us, and he was shocked what he learned from us. And then the next year in 2018, he set up a meeting with, during our rally, because we're right in front of their window, in 2018. So Mark Gerard and his sister, I couldn't make it at that time because I had to stay with the rally and we had a lot of people, so I had to keep things in order and whatever. But anyway, so they had their first meeting with the health critic last year in 2018 in September, the end of September. And then this year, I went this year with him. And this year now, the health critic just followed up with us to say that they are looking into the French, Paris, France, France's health care system, because it's like ours, and they have stricter restrictions in France than anywhere else. And France is similar to our Canadian health coverage that we have, our I can't even talk, sorry. So things are moving, and then there's a big, huge class action that even the government might partake in, okay? So things are moving, I still consider it slow, because we're going to be fighting this for decades to come. We need major hospital. We need one major hospital, like one huge block downtown, just for fluoroquinolone victims. We need a team of doctors, different doctors, all linked to one main doctor for fluoroquinolone toxicity, because now it's been happening since I got poisoned, and many others, not just in Canada but all over, is they're seeing 50 different doctors. A lot of them don't believe or don't know about the fluoroquinolones, and if we tell them, they say, oh, that's not possible, or some will listen and say, oh, and they'll make a note saying, oh, she believes that, they're not agreeing or disagreeing, So, and then I've had few doctors the last couple of years say, yes, that they believe all my damages is from Cipro. So it's in my medical records, okay? But it's a slow process, and we are getting victims daily. And in Canada, because we have OHIP, we have more victims growing more and more. And sadly, most of the victims don't know that they've been given chemo drugs. These are not simple antibiotics, okay? Anyway, I'm going to end it because now I have 2 parts to this, and this is 30 minutes, so now my video is over an hour. So my apologies, but I hope that, you know, everyone listens. So we're in December, and look at the weather. I love winter anyway, but it's just harder on me now. Anyway, best wishes to all. Stay safe during the holidays, and watch if you have a cold. Know what the doctor's giving you. You know, don't take Cipro or any fluoroquinolone, eardrop, eye drop, anything. Put it in your medical files everywhere you go that you're allergic to fluoroquinolones. But you have to put all the names. That's the sad thing, because unless doctors are becoming more educated on all the names, but sometimes when people put it in their file, they say allergic to Cipro. Then the doctor will say, okay, so we'll give you Levaquin. They're not realizing that it's in the same family. So you need to be specific. And again, you know, like, I'm not telling you not to take it. If you feel that, you know, you're like, the only time that I would never consider it, but what I can say is if you're in a fatal situation, then you have to decide. And hopefully the doctors will tell the patients, even when they're dying of some, you know, fatal situation or disease or whatever, that this is the adverse reactions you can get if you survive, okay? And for me, I would say no, give me a safer and better antibiotic than a fluoroquinolone. But I can't speak for everybody else. So really, the only time that you should even consider a fluoroquinolone is when you're dying. Anyway, God bless. And we're in December. New Year's is coming and Christmas is coming. So, you know, happy holidays and stay safe.